Hello Puffin readers, I'm Sophie Kinsella and I'm here to read you a story from my book, Mummy, Fairy and Me. Here it is. It's got lovely pictures in it by Marta Kissy and it's all about a little girl called Ella whose mummy is secretly a fairy. She looks like a normal mummy but she can turn into a fairy, but it's a big secret and nobody's allowed to know. The other thing you need to know about Ella's mummy is she might be a fairy but she's not very good at doing magic. You'll soon see what I mean. And the story I'm going to read today is called REWINDERIDOO, the best sports day ever, again and again. One day, Mummy came to my room and gave me a pair of trainers. "What are those for?" I asked. "It's sports day later," she said. "These are for you to practice your jumping." I put them on, then ran out to the grass in the front garden and went, "Step, step, jump!" But my shoelaces were too long and I tripped over them. I landed with a thud on the grass and bumped my nose. I'm not very good at sports, but Miss Amy says I am a trier. At that moment, my not best friend Zoe ran past in her new trainers. Zoe lives next door to me. She always says mean things. Today she just pointed at me and laughed her horrible laugh and ran into her house. I didn't say anything because Mummy says you should ignore unkind people, but I felt hot and a bit sad. I brushed the mud off my knees and tried to tie my laces properly, but they got into a big tangle. I hate shoelaces. "Ready for sports day?" said Zoe's mum. She was going into her house with some shopping. "Oh dear, what a pickle your laces are in." Zoe's mum went inside. Then Mummy came out and saw me trying to do up my laces. "Come on, darling," she said. "It's time to go. Let's speed you up." She looked around to make sure no one could see. Then she stamped her feet 3 times, clapped her hands, wiggled her bottom and said, "Marshmallow," and poof, she was a fairy. She pointed at my shoes with her computer wand and said, "Lacery-doo." At once, my laces started moving on their own, but they didn't knot themselves neatly. They flew into the air and went to hang on the apple tree. The next minute, all Daddy's shoelaces came flying out of the window and went to hang on the tree too. They looked like spaghetti and I started giggling. "Oops," said Mummy Fairy and prodded her computer wand. "I don't know how that happened." Just then, Auntie Jo came out of the front door. She was going to come and watch me at sports day too. Auntie Jo is very good at magic and her house is full of silver prizes from the fairy awards. She saw the laces waving in the tree and shook her head. "Tragic," she said. "Let me fix that for you." She stamped her feet 3 times, clapped her hands, wiggled her bottom and said, "Sherbet lemon," and poof, she was a fairy, just like Mummy, with silver wings and a crown. Auntie Jo Fairy pointed her computer wand at the tree and said, "Fixery-doo." At once, my laces zoomed back into my shoes and tied themselves into a neat knot. All Daddy's laces sailed back in through the window. "Thank you, Auntie Jo Fairy," I said. "Well done, Jo," said Mummy Fairy, although she didn't look very pleased. "My pleasure," said Auntie Jo Fairy. "And now, Ella, what about a little twinkle toes spell to make you run nice and fast?" I like the idea of a twinkle toes spell. "Yes, please," I said. But Mummy Fairy stepped forward before Auntie Jo Fairy could point her wand. "No," she said. "That's cheating. We do not cheat in this family, do we, Ella?" I knew Mummy Fairy was right. Cheating was wrong. But I really wanted a twinkle toes spell to help me. Maybe then I could even win a race. It's just one tiny spell, said Auntie Jo Fairy to Mummy Fairy. Don't you want Ella to win all the races? Not by cheating, said Mummy Fairy firmly. Look, I said. Zoe's coming back. She'll see you. At once, Mummy Fairy and Auntie Jo Fairy stepped behind a bush to hide. When Zoe reached our garden, she stopped. She peered at the bush and narrowed her eyes. What was that? She said. Is someone hiding? No, I said. It's nothing. Maybe a squirrel. Oh. Zoe looked at the bush again, then turned away. Well, I'll see you at Sports Day, Ella. Oh no, I won't see you because I'll be at the front of every race and you'll be at the back. You're going to lose every single one. She stuck out her tongue and ran off. I was too cross to reply. As Auntie Jo Fairy came out from behind the bush, she looked furious. What a horrid girl, she said. Ella, if only I could give you the twinkle toes spell. You would twinkle and whiz along like a rocket. Mummy Fairy, please can I twinkle and whiz, I said. Just in one race? No, said Mummy Fairy, looking crossly at Auntie Jo Fairy. You must promise me you will not put any spells on Ella to help her win. All right, said Auntie Jo Fairy, crossing her arms. Not even a tiny one, said Mummy Fairy. I promise, said Auntie Jo Fairy. Not even a tiny one. But when Mummy Fairy wasn't looking, Auntie Jo Fairy winked at me. The sports day was in the big field behind my school. Welcome to Sports Day, said Miss Amy. Now let's begin. All the parents were standing at the side, watching the races. The first race was running and my whole class was lined up. I reached down to touch my feet, but they didn't feel twinkly or whizzy. They just felt normal. Auntie Jo hadn't put a spell on me after all. She must have listened to Mummy. I felt a bit disappointed. On your marks, get set, go, shouted Miss Amy, and we all began to run. I was running as fast as I could, and I looked round to see where the others were. I couldn't believe my eyes. They were all running slowly, really, really slowly. Even Zoe. Come on, Zoe, her mum was shouting. Faster! I'm trying, yelled Zoe. My legs won't move. Zoe and all the other children in the race looked like slow motion people on TV. They looked so silly that I started to laugh. Ella, shouted Auntie Jo, run! I ran to the end of the race, all on my own. I was the winner. Everyone else was miles and miles behind me. Well done, Ella, said my friend Tom as he ran up to the finishing line. He was panting and red in the face. My legs felt so weird. I tried and tried, but I couldn't run fast. Clever girl, said Auntie Jo, and she gave me a huge hug. You'll get a gold medal. Zoe was furious. How did you win? She said. It's not fair. I'm the best at running. Very good, Ella, said Mummy Fairy. But she gave Auntie Jo a hard stare. What happened to the others, I wonder? I have no idea, said Auntie Jo. Now it's time for the long jump. We all lined up in front of the long jump. It was a tray of sand, and the person who jumped the furthest would be the winner. When we did the practice yesterday, I crashed so hard on my bottom that everyone laughed. I hoped I wouldn't crash like that today. My friend Lenka was going first, and she got ready. She ran to the sand tray, step, step, but then she jumped backwards. She jumped the wrong way. Oh dear, said Miss Amy, looking surprised. Lenka, you should have jumped forward. I'm afraid you don't get any score. Tom, it's your turn. Tom ran towards the sand tray. Step, step. And then he jumped backwards too. Everyone started laughing. I don't understand, said Tom. I wanted to jump forward, but my legs just jumped backwards. All the children kept jumping backwards. All the teachers were calling, this way, jump forwards. Then it was my turn. I ran at the sand tray. Step, step, leap. I landed in the sand with a crash, and Auntie Jo cheered. Very good, said Miss Amy. As no one else has jumped the right way, you are the winner, Ella. Hooray! Yelled Auntie Jo, waving her arms. Ella's the winner! Ella gets another gold medal! I didn't feel as happy as I'd expected. I didn't feel like a proper winner. I'd only won because everyone else went backwards. Wait! Shouted Mummy Fairy. I was amazed because Mummy had become a fairy in front of everyone. She waved her computer wand and said, "Freezery-doo!" At once, everyone except Mummy Fairy and Auntie Jo and me went still. All the teachers and parents and children were like statues, and as I looked at them, I started to giggle. Tom was standing on one leg. Mr. Wilson, the head teacher, was scratching his head. Zoe had her finger up her nose. No one could see or hear us. Mummy Fairy was very cross with Auntie Jo. What have you done? She said. You promised not to put a spell on Ella. I didn't put a spell on Ella, said Auntie Jo. I put spells on all the other children. First a slow down spell, then a go backwards spell. Aren't I clever? She winked at me, but I didn't know whether to smile back. No, you are not clever, said Mummy. I told you not to use any spells. I never used magic at Ella's school. That's because... Auntie Jo stopped. What? Said Mummy Fairy. Because what? Because you aren't very good at magic, said Auntie Jo. Mummy Fairy was breathing hard. I think she was trying not to get angry, but I felt angry. Mummy Fairy is good at magic, I said to Auntie Jo. She can fly and she can turn invisible. She's the best Mummy Fairy in the world. Sorry. Auntie Jo bit her lip. I didn't mean to say that. Perhaps I am not as good as magic as you, said Mummy Fairy to Auntie Jo. Perhaps I don't have any silver cups, but I try hard, and Ella tries hard at sports. And that is what Sports Day is all about, trying hard, isn't it, Ella? I nodded, even though I still really wanted a gold medal. Auntie Jo looked down at the grass. I was wrong, she said. I shouldn't have done any spells. And I shouldn't have been rude about your magic, she said to Mummy Fairy. I'm very sorry. Then I had an idea. I remembered a spell I'd seen on Mummy's spell app. Mummy Fairy, I said, could we start the sports day again, properly? Could we use the REWINDERIDOO spell? Mummy Fairy's eyes sparkled at me. That's a brilliant idea, Fairy in Waiting, she said. We'll go back to the beginning of the sports day and start again with no spells. Okay? I nodded. Okay. Okay, said Auntie Jo. Good luck, Ella. Mummy Fairy got out her computer wand and looked at it. Then she stopped. The REWINDERIDOO spell is very tricky, she said. I could see she was a bit nervous. I've never done it before without help. I hope it goes right. Then she looked at Auntie Jo. I don't suppose... Let's do it together, said Auntie Jo, and she winked at me. She stamped her feet 3 times, clapped her hands, wiggled her bottom and said, Sherbet lemon, and poof, she was Auntie Jo Fairy, with shimmering wings and a diamond crown and a shiny computer wand. Together, Mummy Fairy and Auntie Jo Fairy pressed the special code on their screens. Bleep, bleep, bloop. "Rewinderidoo," they shouted together. And everything started going backwards. It was like when they do a rewind on TV. I could see Zoe running backwards. I could see Lenka eating a biscuit backwards. Then I saw Tom blowing his nose backwards. That made me laugh. Suddenly, the rewinding stopped. We were in the field at the beginning of sports day again. Mummy and Auntie Jo were back to normal. "Welcome to sports day," said Miss Amy. "Now, let's begin." This time, no one ran slowly or jumped backwards. Zoe won 3 gold medals for running, long jump and high jump, and I made myself clap hard when she went up to get them. Zoe is very good at running, even if she isn't a nice person. Then it was the 3-legged race. I was with Tom. Lenka was with Zoe. Our legs were tied together and we had to run in time with each other. "Now, children, don't rush," said Miss Amy before the race started. "You have to work as a team." When the race began, Tom and I started counting. 1, 2, 1, 2. We weren't very fast, but we ran along in time with each other. I could hear Zoe yelling, "Hurry up, stupid," to Lenka. The next minute, Zoe and Lenka had fallen over on the grass. But Tom and I didn't look back. We didn't need to shout at each other because we were friends, and friends don't shout. We just kept on going. 1, 2, 1, 2, until suddenly we'd crossed the line. We'd won the race. Miss Amy gave Tom and me each a shiny gold medal. Auntie Jo and Mummy waved their arms and cheered and hugged each other, and I felt really happy. I'd won a race properly. "Well done, Ella," Tom said to me. "Well done, Tom," I said to Tom, and we both laughed. "Let's go and get some ice cream as a treat," said Mummy. "Tom, you come too." Then Zoe came up to us. She looked at me with small, angry blue eyes. "How did you win a race, Ella? You're no good at sports," she hissed, so nobody could hear but me. I thought about Auntie Jo's magic spells. I thought about running faster than everyone else and jumping the right way when everyone else went backwards. Then I thought about winning the race with Tom without any magic at all. And I thought about Mummy Fairy and Auntie Jo doing the Rewinderidoo spell together. "I won because Tom and I are friends and we worked as a team," I said. "That is the best way to win." And I stroked my shiny gold medal and I smiled.